Okay, we are good to start.
Okay, well, let's bring this meeting to order.
Okay, I'll start with roll. Mr. Oster,
Here?
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Trebs,
Yes.
Ms. Sandar,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
All right, we have 5 cases tonight. As protocol, I know on the agenda, we'll do the swearing in of witnesses before each variance application. So once I read the staff report, I'll unmute the applicants. At that time, Mr. Oster will state the swearing in of the witnesses, if any of them will wish to speak. If I do not unmute you and you do wish to speak on that particular application, please send me a message in the chat, and I'll unmute you so we can get you in on that hearing. I guess we'll start. The first item on the agenda is old business, which is with Turkey Hill applications and the removal. They are asking to withdraw their applications, which are VA-19-07 and CU-19-08. So I'll just
Okay.
need a
Okay.
motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the withdrawal from Turkey Hill 7 and CU 1908.
I'll second.
Yeah, we had a motion made by Mr. Miller to accept the withdrawal request of VA-19-07 and CU-19-08, seconded by Mr. Oster. Those voting, Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Ms. Sandar,
Yes.
Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Trebs.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Those applications are withdrawn. The next item on the agenda is variance case VA-20-15. Then we'll go over the staff report. The applicant owner is Kevin Kling. The site is 1632 Impatiens Way. It's parcel ID number of 318-240-33-007-000. It's zone single family plan residential district. They're requesting an area variance from rezoning case 12451 Estates of Glen Oak to allow for the construction of a swimming pool to encroach in the rear yard setback requirement in an area zone single family plan residential district. The subject property is located on the south side of Impatiens Way. The site is currently owned by Kevin and Holly Kling. The applicant is seeking a 17.5-foot variance from the rear yard setback. The surrounding area, north, south, east, and west, are all single family plan residential districts, and the use is single family homes. Provided a zoomed out aerial of the location and also a zoomed in aerial of the location. For the staff review, the area variance from rezoning case 12451 Estates of Glen Oak Development Summary setbacks. Rear yard setback is 35 feet. The swimming pool will encroach in the rear yard setback at a distance of 17.5 feet. A variance of 17.5 feet from the rear yard setback is requested. Exhibit 1 is the site plan. It's of the full plan. Exhibit 2 is the site plan with the staff review to make sure that the drawing was to scale, which it was. And we have site photos that were obtained through Google Maps satellite. And that is all I have on this case. I'll unmute the applicants. And if
Nope, thank you.
Mr. Oster would read the
Sure.
swearing in.
Okay. Anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State, I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to offer testimony, please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. And then the next part is anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through online chat function also needs to be sworn in remotely. Before your initial comment, please type in your name, address, and the words "I affirm" to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony you're offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Kling?
Kevin Kling, 1632 Impatiens Way, and Lewis Center 43035, and I affirm. We built the house in 2007. At the time, we were engaged and thinking about a lot of great things. One thing we did not think about is a plot plan. Be honest, not that I could read it a whole lot better today, but did not understand what a variance really is or the easement, et cetera. We have a very shallow backyard. If you were to look zoomed out, by comparison, the neighbors behind us have a very large, as they're in the back of a cul-de-sac. And so over the years, we've built a lot of landscaping around it so that there is privacy on all three sides of our house. So we're looking to put into a standard pool. It's something we made a decision instead of moving out that we really like the area, would like to stay in it, but add a pool. Been around pools all my life. I'm a former world record swimmer and Big Ten champ. And, we want our kids to have that same experience. And with COVID, with pools being closed, we thought this made the most sense. So that's really it in a nutshell. And so right now, as the plot lays out, our pool would have to basically be up adjacent to the house, which would not make sense that our diving board was our back door, metaphorically speaking. And so that is it. So we wanted a normal, so we could put a standard layout in the backyard of a pool.
Mr. Kling, what does you say standard size pool? What is this pool size going to be?
The width will be 15 feet. The length will be 32 feet.
Mr. Kling, it's Mr. Shipley. So my understanding is it requires a 17.5 foot variance. Is that what you're asking for?
Correct. It allows
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Allows little space for us to put in the concrete for a patio and then the pool.
Okay. And if I'm reading it correctly, just so I'm clear here, there's your HOA has no issue with this.
Correct.
And it appears that there has been notification from all of your neighbors.
That's correct. We provided letters from all the neighbors that said that they were okay with it.
Supportive, right? Okay.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. About the HOA, please help me. I don't see, maybe I am missing like HOA approval. I don't see any paperwork here. Colleagues, can you help me?
It's in the packet. There was a number.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's in the package. It's in front
It's
of
an email.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right, okay, I look for it. Thank you, guys, thank you.
Mr. Kling, there's on the Google map that's shown on the screen right now, shows a number of trees all the way around, basically back and side yard. Is it your intent to either remove some of these, or how are you going to apply your safety fencing to it, et cetera? And what size fencing would it be?
Our neighborhood requires a standard one style of fence, which I believe is the 6-foot black aluminum fencing. And so we would be applying the exact same fence as required by the neighborhood. And it would be just to the outside of the tree lines, as everything we planted is within our property lines.
Okay.
In order to encompass it all. And then it would come up along the side of the house. They're slightly different on where the tree lines go, but basically, as you look on both sides, it come to the front of those trees and then come over to the house and connect.
Is there going to be an access along this fencing?
There'll be one on each side of the house and then one in the, right now we're still waiting for the fence company figuring here. Initially, we were not planning an access in the rear, just the two on the sides, unless that is something that's contingent.
And the bottom right-hand corner, I take it that's a hot tub of something of that nature in purple?
That is a trampoline on the neighbor's yard.
Okay.
And then in our yard, that's just a clubhouse swing set that will be removed.
Ma'am, could you state your name and address, please?
Sure. Holly Kling, 1632 Impatiens Way.
Thank you. And you also affirm?
Yes.
Sorry, we have to be legal.
You're fine.
Mr. Kling, what is that on the right side? Closer to the trampoline, the right side, I mean, towards, very close to the trampoline. Is it a shed or what is that?
On the right-hand side of the neighbor's yard, the tan is their patio. Just to the left of the bluish purple trampoline in our yard is the kids' playhouse / swing set, clubhouse, whatever you want to call it. There are no sheds back there around any of it. Directly off the back of our house is a paver patio currently with a pergola. That would be removed and replaced with the concrete patio as part of the pool.
So that will be removed, right?
That's correct, yes.
Hello, this is Kelvin Truffs. What is the distance between the existing patio pergola and the back
Swimming pool.
fence? No, the back fence.
Currently, I believe our patio is 16 feet deep, and in the back of our yard is 35 feet. So what would the difference of that be? 19 feet?
So the current is within the setback or the easement?
Yes.
The current patio is 16 feet deep. The backyard for, so we have 50 some feet from the back of the patio to the back of the property currently.
Okay, so it's not within the 35 feet setback.
That's
If we-
correct.
Yeah. If we were to put the pool onto the back of the paver patio as it stands today, we would be over. In the plan, our paver patio will be shallower, our concrete patio will be shallower than the paver patio. So as we were trying to minimize the request for the variance.
But still you're asking for a 50% of the easement to be a variance.
To go within it right now, the pool would be 14 feet out away from the back of the house with the proposed plan. their concern is the closer you come in, it starts to seem less practical as far as, walking out the back of the house and being directly in the pool, more or less.
And there's no plan to have a fence just around the pool itself. You've fenced in the yard as your safety fence.
That would be our intent, unless there's some contingency as part of this, that if there's something we're missing there. The safety to us seem fencing the entire yard to the back and to the side would be safer than just the pool.
Thank you.
Do you plan on having any type of pool cover?
Pool cover, yes. We have not planned on an automatic cover. Our neighborhood, I think the area doesn't allow that as a substitution for a fence.
Well, I wasn't meaning it as a substitute for a fence. Pool covers a lot of times are put in from a safety standpoint, either mechanical or a manual or an automatic.
Okay, that's more clear. We don't intend to put in an automatic. We do intend to have a manual cover.
Is the manual cover of a polypropylene or woven type material, or is it a rigid?
It is going to be of I need to look at that, but it is more of a permanent cover with tie downs around the pool, as opposed to a plastic free floating.
Okay.
If I've answered that correct.
Yeah, so more of a hard cover is what you're saying, I believe.
Correct.
Hi, this is Kelvin again. How many other pools are in your area?
I don't know exact count. Last
There
year,
are 4 in our neighborhood.
4.
Okay. And are they of approximate size that you're asking to be put in?
Yes.
They are.
Miss Holly Kling, could you tell me, just not exactly those address, like which street and, just roughly, if you could remember. The
I'm sorry,
ones
what
which
was that?
have-
What?
The swimming pool, you said
The ones that
the
have the
same
pool?
neighborhood have 4 of them, right? 4 address, you said
Yes.
they have
Yep.
swimming pool in the same. Yeah, could you just tell me roughly
Yep.
some street names?
Yep, there's one on. Yeah, there's one on Primrose, towards closer to Orange Road, and there are 2 in the Greenspire Court. And then the one, I believe it's off of Orange Lake. There's a cul-de-sac.
You're cutting off. Even last time when you spoke, it was like that. I just want to let you know. I don't know whether it's me or.
No, I think
sorry.
it was.
No,
Yeah,
her
Holly,
connection is fading a little bit.
Yeah.
Primrose. So if you're looking at the current picture,
Uh-huh.
from Orange Road, the entrance into our neighborhood, it's kind of center in the screen. In our part of the neighborhood, it's on the right. If you follow that up to the right, yep, keep going up a little bit further with your arrow. And about right there, the house on the right, that third or fourth, yes, that one of those right in there has a pool. And then it won't quite be on here, but if you were to follow in the upper right-hand corner where it goes into the estates of Glen Oak, in the cul-de-sac, that'd be up and to the right of what's shown in this picture. There's a pool up in there. And I
I
think
think even your HOA, board of directors for the HOA addressed the fact that when you talked about your fence before, they addressed that there were other pools in the neighborhood because it says the fence has to match the other pools in the neighborhood. And of course, it's a pool fence, so it has to be pool compliant. There's rules with that also. So
Yes.
the HOA also addressed that there are other pools in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
In the picture that we're currently seeing, your house has got a yellow band around it. The house to the right of that, I'm assuming it has the same 35-foot setback.
I believe so. I guess I don't know for sure, but I would assume it's very similar in size.
It's
Yeah.
a corner lot, and I think the setback might be on a different side.
No, the one I'm talking about, it's not a corner, it's in the middle. The one to the left is
Right.
a corner lot, yeah. And that
Oh,
would have a
okay.
difference.
Okay, you're talking to, okay.
Yeah,
When you said to the right,
I was
was
doing
thinking
as the
corner.
picture, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Jeff, is that a standard setback for most of the development?
Depends on the development. Some development plans are more lenient on the setbacks. Some of the newer ones are fairly standard at 35. There are some that allow up to 5 feet.
Okay.
I don't know the addresses, Mr. Kling, but the both, so you have two properties that come up and meet in the back of your property, correct? One kind of comes in at an angle.
Correct.
So do both of those properties have letters of support in your package?
The one, for sure, the one that comes in a corner on the right.
Mhm.
The one that is straight back, we tried to contact them and they wouldn't answer the door. And then we left it in their mailbox and they chose not to respond to that.
Okay.
Outside of that, every other neighborhood in the surrounding area. And it's just, we've been there since 2007. We've talked to them twice. They're just not social people.
Right.
And so we took it, their lack of a couple tries of acknowledging it, that they weren't interested. We see them outside maybe once a year outside of when they're mowing the grass at about 8 p.m.
That's fine. I was just curious.
And they did reach out. They did email. Just they got my letter, and they didn't have any. They seem not to have any issues since everything was on their property.
Okay.
I have a quick question. You said that you're going to be putting a fence all the way around. Jeff, can you zoom in to the back of the property, please? And my reason for asking is, from what I can see here, it's very little trees to the back. Is that correct?
Very little trees.
Yes.
I was thinking there's an updated photo that has
Yeah.
more trees.
I thought there was in the packet, I thought we took it from all three sides, kind of from the neighbors looking into our yard. I don't know if that's available, if you can see it, but I may give you a better. I want to say we have a large maple in both corners, and I think there are a total of 4 additional trees in the middle, along with some forsythia.
The reason I asked the photos that are with the packet, it shows the black, either yellow dotted around or a black around that would be showing the fence line, and it really doesn't show the tree lines to the back. My reason for bringing it up is if what you're asking for is a 17.5-foot from the edge of the pool to your property line. And with those trees, it's going to be almost on top of your pool.
And that could be why there's only 3 foot of concrete on that end. According to the drawing, it looks like there's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, 3 foot around both sides in the rear.
Yeah, we were trying to limit the amount, more just a walkway around it, and then all the, really the impetus of the patio would be between the house and the pool of
Mhm.
where people would sit, et cetera. And part of it was trying not to extend too far beyond. I mean, we understand what we're asking for. We're trying to, be practical as opposed to stretching it all the way to the end and still leaving some grass space.
That still leaves you 17.5 feet, I think, between the pool and your back fence, back property line.
Correct.
Right. I have no further questions, Mr. Oster.
Okay, does anybody else have any further questions or concerns?
None from
I
me.
have no further questions either, Mr. Oster.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. The based upon, I know it's 17.5 foot of variance, variance application VA 20-15, based upon the analysis and the fact that the HOA itself is in favor of this as well as all the neighbors, I would make a motion that we approve the variance.
I would second that.
We have a motion made by Mr. Shipley to approve variance case VA-20-15, seconded by Mr. Oster. Those voting, Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Motion carries. Holly, I'll be emailing you with the response letter the next few days. From this point on, you just have to apply for your residential permit for it, as long as it meets these plans.
Just a small note, like make sure that you are doing the safety, following the, for the safety reasons, like covering the swimming pool. Make sure you follow that. It's not just for you, it's also for the neighbors, just in case. Thank you.
Thank you.
100% will be following
Yeah.
those rules.
I think that's why they require the fencing, directly around those pools anymore, with generally a lockable gate and all of that also.
And if you have young kids, I wouldn't give your young kids the combination to the locks on the sides. So they don't let.
Good advice. Thank you.
Good luck, Mr. Klein.
Lock.
All right, that takes us to the next case, which is conditional use CU-20-16. Go with the staff report. The applicant owner is Amy Tout. The agent is Joseph Voorhees. The site is 1385 Franklin Street. The parcel ID number is 318-213-04013-000. It's zone farm residential district. They're requesting a conditional use from section 24.03 of the Orange Township zoning resolution to construct an addition on a legal non-conforming use. The subject property is located north of Franklin Street at the corner of First Street. The site is currently owned by Amy and Paul Tout. The applicants are seeking to remove 138 square foot existing porch to construct a 600 square foot enclosed addition and 108 square foot rear porch to the current house. Now, the surrounding areas are all farm residential district with single family homes. We have a zoomed out aerial of the site. We also have a zoomed in aerial of the site. For the staff review, section 24.03, enlargement, no non-conforming building or use may be completed, restored, reconstructed, extended, or substituted except upon the granting of a conditional use permit issued by the Board of Zoning Appeals pursuant to Article 28 in this section. The board shall have the power to permit changes and extensions of non-conforming uses as follows. Subsection C, the alteration or reconstruction of a non-conforming use, structure, sign, or building provided that such will make non-conforming use substantially more in character with its surroundings. The applicants are seeking to construct a 600 square foot enclosed addition and 108 square foot rear porch to the current house and remove the 138 square foot existing porch. A non-conforming use shall not be extended by more than 50% of the size of the non-conforming use that existed at the time of passage of this zoning resolution. Once again, the applicants are seeking to remove the 138 square foot porch, construct a 600 square foot enclosed addition, and 108 square foot rear porch to the current house. The addition will be approximately 37% of the current square footage on that parcel. As that's shown, site plan is Exhibit 1 that shows the proposed addition. It's a 20 foot by 30 foot addition in the rear of the house. Exhibit 2 is the site plan with parcels highlighted. The lines that come straight down were like the kind of the sideways letter Z. Those are the parcel lines. It's actually 3 parcels that are owned by the same owner. And this addition will be on the parcel to the right. Exhibit 2, the site plan that shows the parcel line and addition highlighted. The existing structure is outlined in red. As you can see, it goes across parcel lines. So the area that is on that parcel is the area that would be considered for that 50% increase. Next, we have some site photos from Google Image that shows the current structure, the layout at the intersection of Franklin Street and First Street. And that is all I have. I'll unmute the applicants here. I know which ones are needed. So Rick would like to read the swearing in of the witnesses.
Okay, anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State, I do.
I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to offer testimony, please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. Anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through the online chat room function also need to be sworn in remotely before your initial comment. Please type your name, address, the words I affirm to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony you're offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Comments from the owners?
My name is Paul Tout. I live at 1385 Franklin Street, and I affirm. So we would like to add on to our house to add a great room, a mudroom, and an extra bathroom to give our family a bit more space. We also want to add a basement. We currently don't have a basement or any type of tornado shelter. It got pretty scary. I'm sure everyone remembers a couple weeks ago, there was a tornado warning. We would really appreciate having a place to run and flee to when that comes up. That's another objective here.
Where exactly would that basement be?
The 600 square foot addition would have the whole bottom of it would be a basement.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Beard, do you have any photos of the surrounding houses?
You mean you just want aerials of it?
Yeah, aerial is fine. Would you zoom out, please? There you go. Very good. Thank you. Technology's great.
Hey, Jeff, is that the only non-conforming one?
No, pretty much in Old Lewis Center here.
Everybody is.
Everybody is.
No,
Yeah.
no one conforms. Yeah.
And just to make it clear, this kind of came up with one of our later applications about the extending the 50% and stuff. And then talking to legal counsel, it was determined that pretty much any addition or anything that's on most of these lots would have to go through this conditional use to be allowed, just based on our non-conforming use section of our code and how it is written.
Right.
Have you received any letters in support or opposition or emails?
I received an email from the neighbor to the west, and they were in favor of it. I had a conversation with one of the individuals across the street from the letters, and they didn't seem to have any opposition to it. I have not heard of anybody have not had any opposition to the request.
I noticed that you have a pet business that's part of your area. Are you planning on expanding any of that at all? Or is this strictly going to be for your home?
Strictly for our home.
You have to affirm.
Amy, sorry, Amy Tout, 1385 Franklin Street, and I affirm the addition's just for our family, for the home. The business is, the pet care business is staying the way it is.
From the drawings and what's circled or squared here, it appears that the addition is coming out to the same level as the existing house.
To the west is to the right on this drawing, right? Or on this image?
I think so.
Yes. To the west, it is the same. To the east, it's slightly shorter, and it's roughly the same same north-south dimension as the existing house.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is kind of, I hate to use the term cut and dry, but based on the area of similarity of all the properties in and around there, and that they want to improve their living standards and let that little one have more playroom and mom and dad more room, I'll make a motion to approve CU 2016.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Miller to approve conditional use case CU-20-16, seconded by Mr. Trevs. Those voting, Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trevs,
Yes.
Ms. Sandar,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you so much.
So much.
What do we need to do now? Just get the permit from Delaware?
Do you have a pending permit with the township?
Uh,
You applied for the residential permit
I'll
addition?
double check with the builder.
Okay. Yeah, they just have to get the residential permit. I can't remember off the top of my head if you already have one pending or if it was discussed before. So you need a zoning permit from us and then the building permit from the county.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Be safe.
All right, the next case on the agenda is conditional use case CU-20-17. The applicant is Steve Moore with Moore Signs. The owner is Ocelute LC. The site is 86 and 90 Hidden Ravines Drive. Parcel ID numbers of 318-321-02-008-501 and 318-321-02-008-500. It's zoned plain commercial and office district. They're requesting a conditional use from rezoning application 2091 campus at Hidden Ravines in the Orange Township zoning resolution to allow the construction of a monument sign in an area of zoned plain commercial and office district. The subject property is located north of Hidden Ravines Drive at the intersection of Owenfield Drive. The site is currently owned by Ocelute LLC. They are requesting to allow the construction of a monument-style freestanding sign. To the north is Farm Residential's Kingwood Cemetery. The remaining surrounding areas are all plain commercial and office district. The uses are office buildings. You have a zoomed out aerial, a zoomed in aerial of the site. It does just state 90 Hidden Ravines Drive. It is the building on the left. The zoomed in aerial is actually 86. The one on the right is 90, I believe, or vice versa. Staff review, section 2 of the general covenants of rezoning application 2091 campus at Hidden Ravines. The total area of the sign should be 1 square foot per linear foot of building frontage. However, in any case, not to exceed 80 square feet. Each side of the sign totals approximately 37 and 8/10 square feet for a total sign area of approximately 75 and 6/10 square feet, as shown in Exhibit 1. It's calculated by multiplying the width of the sign, which is 5 feet 8 inches, by the height of the sign, which is 6 feet and 8 inches. As Exhibit 1 shows those dimensions. And that is the part for 2091. Then it also has to meet the Orange Township zoning resolution under section 22.04A. The sign is a monument style freestanding. The applicant is proposing a monument style freestanding sign as shown in Exhibit 2. Maximum height of the sign does not exceed 8 feet above average grade of the site, and the sign is located at distance right away as required. According to Exhibit 2, the proposed sign will be 8 feet above grade. The sign is proposed to be set back 23 feet from the street right away of East Hidden Ravines Drive. According to the code, the sign setback at this distance is permitted a maximum sign area of 96 square feet. The sign does not have more than 2 sides or surfaces. This sign is proposed to have 2 sides as shown. The display area of any one side or surface does not exceed half of the total display area permitted. The top sign totals approximately 18 and 9/10 square feet. And the bottom sign totals approximately 11 and 2/10 square feet for a total sign area of approximately 30 and 1/10 square feet. The total display area of the surfaces does not exceed 32 square feet or maximum of 16 square feet per side when it's set back at 15 feet. It can increase per distance away from the right of way. The proposed sign will total approximately 30.1 square feet and be set back 23 feet from the street right of way. As previously mentioned, the applicant has permitted an aggregate area of 96 square feet and set at the setback of 23 square feet from the edge of the street right of way. Please, Exhibit 3 shows this location. Not more than 5 colors are used for the purposes of this section. Black and white shall not be considered colors. The proposed sign will have 4 colors: aluminum cabinet painted cool gray, dark emerald green, dark gray, and silver. No part of such sign will be closer to the street right away of 15 feet. The proposed sign is proposed to be set back at 23 square feet or 23 feet from the street right away of East Hidden Ravines. You have Exhibit 2, which shows the overall sign with the base. Exhibit 3 shows the setback location, which is a little hard to see on this small image, but it was in your packet with the application, and it was scaled, so it is set back at the 23 feet. Then you have site photo, the Google image. And you also have a Google image of a sign that is currently on the location out towards Hidden Ravines Drive. This sign will be removed and then be part of the two-face sign that is being proposed. That is all I have.
Okay, is there anybody that is going to testify?
There is. I'm going to unmute them now.
Okay.
It should be unmuted. So if you want to.
Okay.
I'm on board.
Okay, anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State I do.
I do.
When it's your turn to offer testimony, please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. And then anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through the online chat room function also needs to be sworn in remotely. Before your initial comment, please type your name, address, and the words "I affirm" to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony that you're offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay, it looks like this sign actually is going to change direction, huh?
Yes, sir. Steve Moore with Moore Signs. My address is 6060 Westerville Road, Westerville, Ohio. Sign contractor that will be installing the sign, and I do affirm.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We're going to redirect the orientation of the sign to be perpendicular to the street so that we can get to both sides, both directions of traffic, have an opportunity to read it a little bit better than the single-sided sign.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody that's got questions?
Jerry Miller, is this going to be a backlit sign, I take it?
Internally illuminated, sir, yes.
Yeah. And do you have the lumen spec on that by chance?
Lumen spec?
Or the
bright
color range?
The LEDs that are inside?
Right.
Yes.
They range probably around 4,500 lumen.
At what temperature?
I have no idea. No one's ever asked that before. I can get that for Jeff if he needs to be on record.
Yeah, I think we'll need that.
I can point out that the background is going to be opaque, as you see in the night view of the upper half, and then almost completely opaque on a green. So the only thing that will really light up at night is the copy.
The reason why we're asking for color or the is because Lewis Center is considered part of dark sky. We are keep our color range in the 3,000, low 3,000 range. We don't want the blue white.
So the
Kelvin?
Yes.
yeah, well, the lumens
Is the
Foot-
brightness.
Is the
Color,
the
foot
brightness.
candles or brightness, right?
the colors is the Kelvin.
Yes,
I can-
3,000 Kelvin.
There are LEDs available now that when LEDs came out first, they were all blue light,
Right.
with the blue extracted to create white. But so I can make sure that they are the warm color LEDs. I believe there's a couple of versions of that out now.
Any other concerns with this?
No, that's
None.
the one I had.
Okay, well, this seems pretty cut and dry, and I say that in the motion, we just include that it can't exceed our 3,000 Kelvin.
I'll
Okay.
make approve CU 20-17 with the condition that the Kelvin rating does not exceed 3,000 range.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Miller to approve conditional use case CU -20-17 with the condition that the lighting cannot exceed 3,000 Kelvin. Seconded by Mr. Treves. Those voting, Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Sindar.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. The next application is conditional use CU -20-18. The applicant is Sign Vision Company Incorporated. The owner is Rise Lewis Center LLC. The site is 7500 Green Meadows Drive. Parcel ID number of 318-230-01-011-016. The zoning is planned industrial district. The request is seeking a conditional use from the Orange Township zoning resolution, Article 22, to allow for the construction of a monument sign in an area zoned planned industrial district. Subject property is located on the west side of Green Meadows Drive. The site is currently owned by Rise Lewis Center LLC. They're seeking a conditional use to allow for the construction of a monument sign in an area zoned planned industrial district. All of the surrounding area is planned industrial districts. Two of the locations is the electric station, and then the rest are commercial buildings. We have a zoomed out aerial of the site. Then you also have a zoomed in aerial of the site. From section 22.04A of the Orange Township zoning resolution, the determination of the proposed sign meets all following requirements. The sign is a monument style freestanding sign. The applicant is proposing a monument style freestanding sign as shown in Exhibit 1. The maximum height does not exceed 8 feet above the average grade of the site. Is required from the street right away. According to Exhibit 4, the proposed sign will be 5 feet above grade. The sign is proposed to be set back 16 feet from the street right away of Green Meadows Drive. According to section 2204A3E of the zoning resolution, the sign is allowed 40 square feet per side. Now, the sign does not have more than 2 sides or surfaces. The sign is proposed to have 2 sides as shown. Display area of any one side or surface does not exceed half of the total display area permitted. The top sign totals approximately 4 square feet, and the tenant space signs total approximately 12 and 6/10 square feet for a total sign area of approximately 16 and 6/10 square feet. The total display area of the sign is not 32 square feet or maximum 16 per side. Increase based on the setback from the right of way. Proposed sign it will total approximately 16.6 square feet and be set back 16 feet from the street right away of Green Meadows Drive. The sign setback at this proposed distance is allowed a total of 40 square feet. Note, not more than 5 colors are used. The proposed sign will have 5 colors consisting of green, orange, blue, dark blue, and gray. The tenants are unknown at this time, so those colors have not been included. No part of the sign shall be closer than the street right away than 15 feet. The proposed sign will be set back 16 feet from the street right away of Green Meadows Drive. One. Sign design. The next exhibit shows the site plan, shows the setback from Green Meadows Drive. Zoomed in so you can see it. We have a site photo of the site from Google Maps. It's currently under construction, doing the drainage and things that is cleared out. Older image, but no buildings have been constructed yet. That is all I have, and I'll get the applicant unmuted.
Okay, anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to offer testimony, please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in.
Okay.
Anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through the online chat room function needs to be sworn in remotely. Before your initial comment, please type your name, address, and the words I affirm to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony that you are offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I'm going to ask the same question Jerry asked about the previous sign. What is the lumens and what is the color temperature of the signage?
And if it's internally lit?
Yes. Darren Gray with Sign Vision, 987 Claycraft Road, Gahanna, Ohio 43230. And I affirm. And I do not know. I apologize. Same answer. We will. It is internally illuminated, but with LEDs like the other sign. But and we can use the LEDs to, per your specifications. But yeah. So apologize.
Well,
but it is internally illuminated with LEDs.
Okay.
The top section, the background's opaque. Only the letters illuminate, and in the bottom section, the background and the tenant copy. Once we don't know who those tenants will be yet, but those will illuminate as well.
The tenants, when they get their names on the sign, they'll have to conform to the same 5 colors.
Okay.
I did have a question, I believe, because it shows the sign itself, I guess the middle section, if you want to call it that, is bigger than the base. And I was under the impression that the base has to be the largest footprint of the sign. Is that correct?
The base should always be the largest point of the sign.
And this one is not.
Okay, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. Was that in the staff report or was that in theirs?
It's in there on one of their exploded views of the sign, because there is an end view that's going to be towards the road that's actually going to have 605 on it.
Side view, right?
Side view, yes.
Or the end view. Well, I was saying end view, but it says it's towards the road. It shows that that center section is actually wider than the base.
I see that now, yes.
And the base has to be at least as wide as any part of that sign.
That's fine.
So this is going to be internally lit, and what is going to show through right where the tenant panels are?
What will illuminate the top section, the rise commercial, all of that, just the copy will illuminate. And then yes, each tenant panel, each tenant graphic will illuminate once we apply vinyl to that will just be applied vinyl to the plastic faces. So those that will eventually illuminate, but yeah, the top section. So basically the entire sign except for the base, but and the background at the top, is again opaque, but.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other questions?
Nope.
I have no question.
Okay, well, I would make a
same lighting piece as we did before with the lumens and the.
right. Well, I'll make a motion to approve VA CU-20-18 with the stipulations or changes to the sign as far as the base has to be the widest dimensions of the sign overall, and the lumens cannot exceed 3000 Kelvin.
I second.
Temperature. It's the color temperature that's the 3000 Kelvin.
Right. Mr. Ray, are you in agreements with those items?
Yes, I am. Yep, that works.
Rick, what were the conditions again? I just want to make sure I have it written down correctly.
That the base was of equal or the largest dimension of that sign, because the way they had it written up or illustrated, I guess I should say, is that it was not. The center section was a little fatter.
Okay, and then the 3000 Kelvin.
And then, yeah, lighting not to exceed 3000 Kelvin.
Okay, do you, does the board have any issues with the tenants? Do you want to put a condition on the tenant spaces?
Well, they would have to abide by.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to abide by, our code.
The 5 colors that exist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many colors does he have right now?
5.
Is there 5? Yeah,
Yep.
they'll have to abide by those 5 colors. if they're going to use colors.
Yep.
Which, what is it? Just white and black are not counted.
That's correct.
So depending on what that is, I wasn't sure exactly what they're going to have there. If it's going to be just a name panel and maybe, you know, like a black logo looking design. But yeah, they'll have to conform to that.
Since we added that third stipulation, we would need somebody to second that with that third condition and then make sure the applicant is okay with that condition.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Oster to approve conditional use case CU-20-18 with conditions that the base is equal to the sign or greater. The color temperature does not exceed 3,000 Kelvin for the lighting, and the tenant colors cannot exceed what is already on there. So they either have to use the colors present or use black and white for the tenant spaces. Seconded by Mr. Miller. Those voting, Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Krebs,
Yes.
Ms. Sandar.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, that brings us to our next case. The next case is variance and conditional use case VA-CU-20-19. The applicant and owner is North Unitarian Universalist Congregation. The site is 1574 Franklin Street. Parcel ID number 318-213-16012-001. It's zoned farm residential district. They're requesting a conditional use from section 7.04C of the Orange Township zoning resolution to allow a church or other place of worship on a lot of not less than 5 acres and an addition in an area variance, section 21.09 of the Orange Township zoning resolution to allow the construction of a building that will fail to meet the required setback from the public road right away. The subject property is located on the south side of Franklin Street on the east side of the railroad tracks. They're requesting to allow the church or other place of worship and for the sidewall of an addition to encroach within the setback regulations for the public road right away. All surrounding areas are zoned farm residential district. Two of the locations are single family homes. To the west is the railroad and to the south is Delaware County Water Company. Zoomed out aerial of the site. We also have a zoomed in aerial of the site. Provided site photos, Google the location. We're through with discuss the conditional use portion of this. First, conditional use from section 7.04C, churches or other places of worship provided to occupy a lot of not less than 5 acres. That's 1 acre for each 100 permanent seats over over 300 in the main assembly area. The applicant has requested for the consolidation of church's functions into one location. The primary purpose. So conditional use is requested to allow a church or other place of worship to meet this requirement for township resolution. I've provided a site plan. It shows.
Jeff, you're kind of breaking up.
The conditional use, that's all I have for the conditional use. Before we get to the swearing in of the applicant and witnesses, we do have our legal counsel, Assistant County Prosecutor Chris Betts, joining us.
Yep. Move on. The last half of what you were saying did not come through, just for everybody's sake.
Okay. So before we move on to the swearing in of the witnesses or the applicants, we do have Chris Betts joining us, who is one of the assistant prosecutors with Delaware County.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Welcome.
Welcome.
My name is Christopher Betts. I'm an assistant prosecuting attorney with the Delaware County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. And if I could have just a couple minutes, I'll kind of outline what I've provided you for this hearing.
Okay.
I've provided you with a copy, and I think you have it in your packet, of a draft resolution and conclusions of fact of decision. These are two generic documents. They don't presume any conclusion out of this, but they do provide some guidance through the process for the board in considering both this conditional use and the variance request.
You cut out.
Mr. Betts, we can't hear you.
Jeff, can you contact him and let him know that we can't hear him?
Yep, I'll let him know.
Poor man's still talking away.
Yep. He's going to have to start over again. And
We can't hear you.
I apologize. I cut out. I'm sorry about that.
and it was right when you started.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay.
My computer's a little finicky sometimes with the connection, so I sincerely apologize about that. So I'll start over if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. As I was saying, I've provided to you two documents that should be in your packet. One is a resolution to adopt a decision and conclusions of fact and decision. The other document is an attachment to that resolution, Exhibit A, which is labeled conclusions of fact and decision. I provide both of these as a guide to the board to kind of walk you through the process of these two applications that are before you for conditional use and variance. Neither of these documents, I guess I should say both of these documents are generic. They do not presume any decision or conclusion out of this. They simply have check boxes and fill in the blanks throughout so that the board can make their decision and issue conclusions of fact and decision in that process. So in other words, it has check boxes in there that both allow you to accept the applications and deny the applications and give reasons for that. Again, being able to fill in the blanks, presumes no conclusion, completely a generic document. It's to be a tool and a help for the board. Now, when you're considering these two applications, the conditional use is for
He's gone again. You're gone.
Did I cut out again?
Yes.
Okay, I'm really sorry. It's the computer. I promise you. I'm sorry.
Your video's good. It's just the audio.
Yeah, I've been having some trouble with it. I don't know why. I've asked our IT people about it, but bear with me. I'm sorry. So I was discussing both of these two forms. Hopefully you got that these in your packet. I'm not sure where I cut out. But in any event, both of these forms are generic forms. You have before you a resolution for approving a decision and conclusions of fact and decision. You also have before you an exhibit A to the resolution, which is conclusions of fact and decision. Again, both generic documents, they have blanks throughout so that you can fill those out, fill in the areas. It also allows you on both applications via checkboxes to either grant or deny the request. Again, presumes no conclusion. It's simply a tool for you to walk through the process and provide conclusions of fact and your decision as you go through the process. In regards to each one of the applications, specifically the conditional use is for the property as it sits today, not any future development of the property. It's simply to I know there's future development proposed for the property, but that is not to be considered as a part of the conditional use. The conditional use, you consider the criteria that's in the zoning code, and that criteria is either met or it's not met. In this case, you're looking at section 7.04C of the zoning code, and I believe that Jeff kind of laid that out as to what's in that and what's the criteria in that in terms of the 5-acre requirement for the property. Secondly, your variance is an area variance that you have in front of you, and the criteria for area variance is set out in this document. You'll see that it has the 7 Duncan versus Middlefield factors, which you'll find in your zoning code that are to be considered for an area variance. The document also, and this is Exhibit A, conclusions of fact and decision, also has a section in there called standards. It has the standards for both conditional use and area variance in there. Conditional use, as I said, you consider the criteria in your zoning resolution, and for the area variance, you consider practical difficulties. So these will walk you through you'll have to fill in the blanks that are in there. But it should be relatively straightforward. Again, just a tool to walk you through it, completely a generic document. If you have any questions as you go through it, I'm more than happy to address those. Just let me know. But I wanted to provide this as a guide to the board and provide some direction to the board and making their decision on these two applications. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Hey, Rick. Do you want to start this?
There you go.
I'm sorry. I was muted. Yeah, I was just looking over all of this document. I know we looked at this prior, and it was a very large addition. Did we actually unmute anybody that's going to do testimony, so we can go ahead and do that at this point?
Yes, and there's some people that did comments in the chat for the affirm.
Oh, I see. That does say there's 3 in the chat now. I thought this chat would pin itself to the side, but mine is looking different now.
No, you have to move it around to where you want it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, before you really get into this, you want to make
Okay.
sure that you swear in any witnesses.
Right. And that's what I was trying to do now. If Jeff has got everybody unmuted.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Majority of them are. You're good.
Well, we can wait and make sure.
One thing that we do request is that people do have courtesy for each other and try not to talk over each other.
Also, watch your background sounds.
Rick, you can go ahead with the.
Okay. Anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? State, I do.
I do.
And when it's your turn to offer testimony, please state your full name, address, and affirm that you've been sworn in. Anyone who intends to offer comments or testimony through the online chat room function also needs to be sworn in remotely. Before your initial comment, please type your name, address, and the words "I affirm" to indicate that you solemnly swear that the testimony that you are offering is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
This is Susan Ritchie. May I proceed?
Sure.
Yeah, Susan Ritchie, 300 Lenape Drive, Columbus. I affirm. So just a little bit of history and a reminder of our purpose and intents. We first came before this board June of last year. And at that point, we only held about 3.3 acres of land. It was this board's excellent recommendation that we approached Delco to purchase additional acreage. We were able to do that. So now we do hold in excess of the 5 acres. A reminder of what our intention is with this expansion. First and primarily, it allows us, we own the house across the street from the main church building. And we've been using that for Sunday school classes primarily. And our main goal with the expansion is to be able to sell that building, return it to its residential use, and bring the children back across the street into the main building. When we've discussed our use of that house with this panel, we've always stated that our intention was to use it temporarily until we could manage an expansion that would allow us to return, again, the children back across the street. The expansion does give us more room throughout the building. We are not planning any particular expansion in terms of our rental use or any non-church activities, but it does give us more flexibility. Currently, one of the problems we have with the floor space in the building is it's just really not usable by folks in wheelchairs. Also, the plan that Kay-An Wookie, our architect, has designed for us improves safety features that we've been concerned about. Right now, when children exit our building, they do so into an active driveway. This takes care of that issue and more. Helping me to answer questions today, we have Kay-An Wookie, who is our architect, and Tom Hennessy, our attorney, and also members of our board and building committee. So of course, we're happy to take any questions you have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Rick, was there questions from the Facebook chat?
Not that I see yet, at least on my end.
Okay. Susan, how many permanent seats will be there in the main assembly area?
So the seating will not be permanent. One of the great advantages of this design that Kay has given us is that we're going to all have flexible chairs, all chairs that we can remove and set out at will. If all of the chairs were set out at once, the capacity would be about 180 seats. But again, it's the flexibility that we care the most about.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Kelvin Truffs. Apparently, the current square footage is 5,812, and your addition is 5,526 square feet.
I think that's 3,812 is the existing church.
I'm sorry, my glasses probably need adjusting. So
That's fine. It's kind of a weird looking 3, but
that's a
yes.
strange 3.
Yes.
One of the things we have to look at is that the 50% rule. So this seems like it's quite a bit over that.
Kelvin, as Mr. Betts stated earlier, we are just looking at the land that is now at the, as it currently is with the building on it now.
So just the existing building and the existing parking lot and things like that.
For the conditional use, that is what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Use is just to seek the use of a church or place of worship. That is outlined in our section 7.04 in our resolution. So they're just seeking that.
And that
the variance would be pertaining to the addition, just to the setback of the addition. But at this time, we're just dealing with the conditional use portion of it.
And it doesn't include the house that they own across the street.
That's correct. That is a separate parcel. So
gotcha. On the existing building, the septic system is a leach bed. Is that correct?
May I ask Mr. Bob Keith to take that question? Bob, are you here? Bob's our
Yes.
building guy.
Yes, Bob Keith, 105 Yorkshire Road, Delaware, Ohio. I affirm. Yes, it is. It's a leach bed system.
And it's going to stay a leach bed system?
Yes. With some modification that's been worked out with the County Board of Health. Which would, it's involving adding a dosing tank and a pump on a timer to spread liquids out over a period of a week.
Could you back up and give that to me a little bit more? The effluent from the church is going into a holding tank and then distributed to the leach bed?
The proposed plan that was worked out with the Delaware County Health Board was to add it's called a dosing tank.
Okay.
And then there would be a pump on a timer that would daily pump out only so much to spread the effluent out over the period of a week.
So within a week, the dosing tank would empty? Is that what you're saying?
It's actually sized that would handle two major services in a week. Right now, well, there's only one service, so it would actually be double the capacity of what would really be needed.
Right, but if there was, let's say it was 1,000 gallons and you only used 500, that 500 would still be put out across the week's period of time rather than all at once.
Exactly.
Okay, I was just trying to understand the mechanics of it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions or comments from applicant or Facebook?
You mean the chat?
Chat?
Or do we have other neighbors, friends? I don't know. I don't know what the function of each of you are, so.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt for just a second.
You sure can.
In regards to the conditional use, which is being considered now, it's sounding as though the applicants have presented their case. I believe at this point you're calling for any other testimony that would be that the applicant wishes to present in support of their conditional use. Am I correct?
That was my statement. This is Jerry Mill. I'm the vice chair.
Okay, I apologize. So I'm correct at this point in assuming that we're making a call for any other testimony from the applicant.
Yes, I'd like to comment, please. James Johnson, 2668 Abbey Knoll Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio. Wanted to add that we aren't planning to expand the congregation. We're building the church to satisfy our existing congregation. It would allow for expansion, but that's not our intent. Reverend Susan mentioned the flexibility. Right now, we cannot have a church dinner because we can't seat everybody. We just have such a small area. With the flexible seating, we can now actually have a holiday celebrations where everyone can be seated for a meal. Those would be two comments I wanted to add. That's all.
Thank you.
If I could, I'm Tom Hennessy. I'm the attorney for the church. I just wanted to make a comment again. My name is Tom Hennessy. I'm with Hill and Deweese. Address is 7737 Olentangy River Road in Columbus. It's 43235. I just wanted to mention, which I'm sure everybody's aware of, the property has been a church since 1866. And so for the last 154 years, there's been church activity there. And at the NUUC, the North Unitarian Universalist congregation has been there for about 20 years. So this is not a new operation on the property. They've been there and they've been neighbors in Lewis Center for quite a long time.
And did you affirm?
Yes, I did. I'll do it again. I do affirm.
Okay.
This is K. Onwukwe, the architect, HKI Associates for the 200 Regent Street, Columbus. I do affirm. I may like to add to what Reverend Richie said. One of the driving goal for designing this building is, in addition to flexibility, is to consolidate the function of the church that is currently in two different locations. By consolidating it in one location, it helps reduce vehicular traffic in terms of the students or the children crossing the street. So in that case, the safety is very critical. And the location of the nursery for the children is towards the back of the new addition that will prohibit the student or the children to run outside and run to the front of the building. And also, in order to maintain the elevation of the street or the ambience of the street, we did not touch the existing building elevation so that the existing building elevation is left intact, so it still maintains its historical nature.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is again Chris Betts, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney. Just again to bring clarity to the board and as a reminder to the board, this is a conditional use under your FR1 district. That's the request again. And the
We've lost you. Mr. Betts, we've lost you.
Anyone who is in the video, can you wave hands so
Yeah,
that Mr. Betts can see? Yeah, thank you, Mr. K.
We lost you.
He still can't hear us. I think his audio goes completely out.
I'm back again. I apologize. I try to keep track of it. I apologize. As I said, just as a reminder to the board, this is an application for conditional use under your FR1 district, section 7.04. We're looking at the church as it currently exists. I know there are proposed changes and additions to the church, but again, it's as the church currently exists, and the criteria you're looking at is whether it's a church or place of worship, that it occupies a lot of not less than 5 acres, plus 1 acre for each 100 permanent seats over 300 in the main assembly area. If it's less than 500 seats in the main seating area, it needs to be on a lot of at least 5 acres. Those are the criteria that you're looking for. So I'm just circling back around so that as a reminder of the criteria that needs to be considered for this conditional use.
Mr. Oster, I have no further questions regarding the conditional use.
I did have one quick question. And this goes back to the total amount of people in the building with the flex seating and so on. If you had everything for a Christmas dinner, for an example, how many people would be in the building?
I would say right now, this is K. Onkwe, the architect, HK Associates firm. I would say right now, the seating capacity in the sanctuary is 180. And that's why we have the loose seats to allow that flexibility. So then when you introduce tables and chairs in the fellowship hall, you easily can bring it up to 200 or 220.
Okay. My reason for asking that is just I'm going by the guidelines of over a certain amount of people, et cetera. And I just want to make sure it was clear.
Right. So right now we're at 180 based on the existing structure.
But it says permanent seating, right?
The existing structure is not 180. That is the proposed expansion.
I think what they were asking was the existing structure.
Oh.
Am
okay.
I wrong?
That's what we're talking about.
Actually, both.
So the existing structure in the sanctuary area, it's pew seating, so it's not a fixed number of seats, but it gets to be very crowded at about 125. The fellowship hall space maxes out at about 80.
So roughly around 200 people total if you had the fellowship hall and the sanctuary.
Correct.
Okay.
We've never packed it that tight, but I suppose it's hypothetically possible.
We're just 75 families, isn't that right, Susan?
That's correct. We have about 140 adult members, about well, maybe 77 family units.
I have no further questions.
I have no further questions on the conditional use. That's right.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion on the conditional use?
Mr. Chairman, before you do that,
Okay.
I know you've given the applicant an opportunity to speak. It sounds like the applicant has presented everything that they want to present at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, and my apologies if we should have done that sequentially.
You will also want to see if there's anyone that wants to present anything in opposition to the application as well. I don't know if anybody's on to oppose the application.
This is Jerry Dill, 1557 Franklin Street. I affirm. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to first confirm whether our 9-page submission from the neighbors was received and read by the BZA members. So
It
that
was.
Okay, good. We didn't want to over repeat stuff you already have in hand. I want to just make sure I understand that what we're discussing at the moment is a conditional use for the building as it currently exists, nothing to do with the expansion.
That's correct.
Okay.
The conditional use is just for the use as a church on that property.
Yes.
Okay. I guess we still question the nature of the 5 acres. I understand they need 5 acres in order to seek conditional use. They technically and legally own 5 acres or more, but we still question the suitability of the land in that it's a skinny flag lot running down the walking trail and not buildable.
Jeff, do you have a picture of that? Oh,
There
wait a
were,
minute.
yeah, there's some in the packet as far as
It's like page.
And it doesn't exactly show what they've added. There's one right there.
That's the best representation there.
That there.
Yes. The far left portion that juts around the trail is about a 2.2 acre section that's technically unbuildable. And then just south of that runs way down the trail. I don't even know how far, equaling about 2 acres. So they added about 2.2 acres to their existing 3.35 acres, but did not materially change the buildability of the lot and what you would normally call a 5 acre lot.
Unfortunately, what we're looking at the moment is strictly the issue of the conditional use as a church on the site that's there now. And I don't mean to be rude by saying that, ma'am. That's
okay.
Right. But the conditional use is dependent on it being on a 5 acre land or
I
lot.
guess correct. I guess our strongest point is they meet the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. And if you would take that into account in your consideration of, quote, 5 acres.
If I could make a comment on that on behalf of the church, I appreciate what's being said here, but the spirit of the law is not what's at issue. The ordinance says that there needs to be 5 acres. If the legislature intended to look at buildable space or however the configured space is, then the ordinance would say that. The legal issue is there at least 5 acres owned as a single parcel by the church, and that is satisfied here. And it is one single parcel. I don't have the exact fractional number, but it does exceed 5 acres.
I have one question on what's on the screen now. There's a notch coming from left to right. It drops down and then back up to reasonable levels. What's in that notch? What don't they own right there?
That is actually the extension of 3rd Street. So
That's
it is
what I
the
thought.
3rd Street right away.
Okay. I thought that was the case, but just for my own knowledge, I wanted to confirm that.
Is there any other questions or comments from other people that would like to speak?
I note there's a question in the comments in regards to whether the submission from the opposition was received or not by the board. I don't know that that's been addressed.
Yeah, that was asked a second ago. She asked us if we'd received that, and most of us said, yes, we have. We have read that.
Yes.
Yes. I typed it in there too, just in case they didn't hear.
Okay.
My apologies.
And of course, I was assuming that they are listening in somewhere and not just texting. So my apologies too for assuming that.
Good call there, Mr.
I just want to make sure the comment was acknowledged. That's all.
Yep.
May I ask if this is the appropriate time within the conditional use permit to reconfirm that Reverend Ritchie's assertion that there's no intention for expanded uses such as rentals, preschool, et cetera, is in fact true? And that's her assertion. This is not about expanding uses and activities, but more about consolidating their existing use of the church.
That is true. I have so testified.
No Montessori. Marching.
I'm sorry, did someone else have a question? I heard something, but I couldn't quite make it out.
Do I need to repeat the question? This is Jerry Dell.
No, I heard your question, but there was somebody else talking male voice at the same time. Okay.
Look here. This is David Dill, 1557 Franklin Street, and I affirm that was my voice that you heard. My question was for Susan Ritchie, that she is affirming that there will be no new activities added, no further load to the property, to the parking, to the building, to the sewage, that there's no plan for a Montessori school like there was next door, that there's nobody that already has a plan for daycare, for kindergarten, for any of that on a weekday basis, that would absolutely not be allowed under conditional use if that's what she's affirming. Is that correct?
You've combined a number of things into one, David. It has been my testimony, and it is my testimony, that we have no intentions of doing a daycare or a preschool. We did indeed explore the prospect of having a Montessori in our Nielsen House property, but when we approached this board, we were discouraged from that, and we obediently stopped pursuing that. I cannot testify that we will never add any activity, but I can say we desire this expansion for our own purposes and have no idea of rental or for-profit use at all.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question regarding the attorney's assertion that the legislature could have said what they meant and meant what they said, and I agree with that point. The legislature certainly should have meant what they said and said what they meant. What they should have said, and I think what our zoning could say, is that we do set a standard for what we think a 5-acre lot is that is suitable for building. The fact that that was not spelled out very clearly, I think, is an exception that really does a lot of harm in this case. And if there is a way that our zoning board can review that and clarify that and put that into its code, it would be a very positive thing for everybody, not only now, but going forward as well. That a 5-acre lot should be a 5-acre lot. It shouldn't be cut up in ribbons and stripes and places where you have no access. You're not allowed to drive on that walking path. So access to that area can only be walking from Franklin Street. I really think that does make a difference in this case. And the fact that the law allows it certainly doesn't mean that it's right. It simply means that that's the law. So if there is a way for zoning to look deeper into this and see to it that there's real justice involved in it, I would appreciate that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Are there any other views of exactly what it was before and then the addition that was just obtained to increase this to a 5-acre? Because I'm not seeing that clearly spelled out either.
Wasn't it that long, narrow strip?
Is it just the long, narrow strip?
Well, there was the long, narrow strip and that little jetty to the right, if I'm not mistaken.
Kind of to the back, so like a backwards 7.
Right.
This is Bob Keith. I can clarify the land addition. If you look at the lower picture on the screen where the purple horizontal line goes between the extension, and then on the left you have where 3rd Street right away extends down. The original property was the purple line in the parking lot and building. Okay, that's the original 0.69 acres.
Okay.
There was a acquisition of 2.66 acres from Delco, which is the piece south, except for that long strip on the right. So the notch you see on the right side and coming back up to purple line that was part of that 2.66 acres added back in 1999, actually. And then most recently, the acquisition, as Gary pointed out, of the 2 acres, well, .2 acres, that's area on the left side where the bike trail is above the purple line. And then on the bike trail going south, clear to that far south extension that's shown on the north, on the upper part of the drawing there on the left, that's the 2 acres that was added in fourth quarter of 2019, which brings us up to a total of 5.557 acres.
I'm going to read one quick item just as a re-reference. The conditions for this is that it has to be less than 300 permanent seats and greater than 5 acres. That is the law that is written. So what we're debating here is really is not applicable because it is a conditional use based on the property that they have it, and it is in greater than 5 acres. And I don't mean to be argumentative or disrespectful. It's the law. Is there any other questions or comments from or in the chat?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Yeah, I didn't see anything either.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments, I'll make a motion for the conditional use to be granted for VA CU 2019, predicated that they do have the 5 acres and their permanent seating is less than 300.
I would second that motion.
Mr. Chairman, before we go any farther, I would encourage the board to use the conclusions of fact and decision that I had provided.
Okay.
Again, kind of walks you through the process here. It has provisions about notice being provided, the conduct of the hearing via Zoom. It also will need to have completed in there the BZA members inserted. It has the individuals listed that are attended, including the sign-in sheet or the Zoom sign-in sheet here. Those that attended the Zoom. Has the jurisdiction for this. It has the property address. I would note that the original application or the original presentation that was presented to the board had the incorrect parcel number in it. It's actually 318-213-10001000, and that's listed in this document. The conclusions of fact and decision list the zoning as being FR1 on the property. Then it gives the standards that we talked about before for conditional use, which is the criteria in the zoning code for the conditional use. We'll talk about the area variance later. Provides a section for you to enter the facts in there, the witnesses that spoke, any evidence that was presented, and then it provides you the findings of fact and decision, the first one being conditional use. It has a check mark box for granted and a check mark box for denied. I hear that there was a motion made for the conditional use to be granted, and here is some language for a motion for granting that conditional use. It's on page 5, if that's what the board so chooses to do.
Mr. Betts, quick question. They started live.
Jerry, you're breaking up. Try that again.
Since this is recorded, both on Facebook, plus we have a legal recording through Orange Township, names can be filled in and
I'm sorry, you keep cutting out.
okay. Since this is on Facebook Live,
yes,
it's all recorded. That can the fill in the blanks of the people's names, etc. Can that be noted as part of the approval or denial process and filled in after the fact? I ask that because we're all remote.
Yes, no, I understand. Yeah, it can be stated orally and then filled in later.
So we would have to each person's name orally added.
The names of the BZA members that, I mean, they're attending the meeting at this point. I think you've entered your names previously, but those could be.
Yeah, he's gone.
That's
sorry about that.
okay.
Yeah, I'll go back and repeat what I just said. The names of the BZA members can be.
We've lost you again.
The names of the BZA members that are attending can be obtained and inserted, on page 2. You'll want to insert some facts on page 3. The names of the witnesses that provided testimony can be inserted or said for page 4. Any exhibits that were received can be inserted on page 4, continuing on to page 5, and then page 6, or excuse me, page 5 has the check mark for if it's to be granted, which I'm hearing that that's what the board wants to do.
Okay, so should we,
or at least that's the motion that's been made, I should say.
Okay. Well, should the motion be made with the conclusions of fact and decision here that you provided to us?
I did not provide anything, but simply
the template.
Not again.
There's nothing in this document in terms of fact other than the property information, what's being requested, the 2 applications, and the rest is left for you to fill in as far as facts are concerned. Again, it's a completely generic document.
Okay. I'm hoping I'm hearing this correctly from you, sir. I will make a motion to approve use case VACU 2019 with the corrected parcel number. And based on board members and witnesses that will be provided and filled in by Mr. We've gone through the facts, and those will be provided.
Yes, that's fine.
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Miller to grant the conditional use application 2-20-19 based on the findings of fact. Seconded by Mr. Shipley. Those voting, Mr. Oster.
Yes.
Miller. Miller.
Having a hard time hearing you,
Yes.
Jeff.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Shipley.
Yes.
Mr. Krebs.
Yes.
Ms. Sundar.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was with the corrected parcel number, Jeff.
Yes. That takes us to the variance application, VA-2019. This is from section 21.09 of the Orange Township zoning resolution.
Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Chris Betts again. Have you been sworn in?
I have not.
Okay, you need to be sworn in, and it should be retroactive to the beginning of this hearing.
Okay.
Does that apply to the rest of the board members?
No, it only applies to Jeff as the zoning officer.
Okay.
Since he's presenting facts and evidence.
Okay, Jeff, do you want to raise your right hand?
Raised.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Sorry about the interruption.
All right. All right, so back to the variance application for section 21.09 of the Orange Township zoning resolution for setback regulations. No building or use except signs or parking areas shall be located closer to adjoining streets, roads, highways, or approved private roadways than the distances set forth in the table or chart set forth hereinafter. For purposes of this chart or table and for other purposes of the zoning resolution, streets, roads, highways, and approved private roadways shall be classified in 4 following classes. The road in question falls under section D. It's a class D road. It's a dead end road ending at a cul-de-sac or approved turnaround when the lot configuration or approved plan precludes future extension of said roadway or any branch therefrom to create a connecting street between 2 or more existing or future streets or roads. Under the zoning of farm residential district, which is the use classification, and under the road classification of class D, the setback regulation would be 60 feet in the right of way. The applicant has requested an area variance to allow the addition to be 14 feet from the public road right of way. The addition will not be any closer to the property line than the existing church building that is legally non-conforming. Exhibit 1's a zoomed in of the site plan. It shows the setback from the right of way. The middle there, 14 feet. That's just the overall site. And this is a view from Franklin Street, kind of looking towards, that's 4th Street there on the left. That is all I have.
Okay, this may sound like an unusual question, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. This building has been in existence for a long, long time. And they've had the setback accordingly. Why would it be required to have another variance since it's already there and has been there for ages? And I'll go back to what we had in a previous applicant where things were non-conforming 50, 100 years ago.
It's my understanding that the reason that this is here is for expansion. The new portion is also not going to be more 60 feet away from the road. Is that correct?
Right.
Right. So, but the line is going to follow the same line of the existing setback, existing church. It's not going to come any closer. It's going to follow the same line.
No.
Yes, it will follow the same line. And if I can just clarify, something we were careful to do with this plan is to no longer use 4th Street kind of as our private driveway. So 4th Street goes nowhere other than to the back of the church right now. So actually by moving all traffic and all parking to the 3rd Street side of the building, there remains to be almost no use for 4th Street. There is no other access to any building or property off of 4th Street. We do have some neighbors who occasionally park there, but the only actual traffic on 4th Street has been us, and that will cease if this plan is approved.
But 4th Street still is a Class D road, so it still falls under the requirement.
Correct. I just wanted to make it clear that part of our goal with the plan was to move all traffic to the other side.
Understand. Thank you.
Mr. Betts?
Yes.
If 4th Street was abandoned, would the requirement still remain for 60 feet?
You're asking a hypothetical question at this point.
Yes.
As I understand it, the right of way, even though it may not be improved, still exists at this point. So the zoning code would still be applicable in terms of the setback.
Okay, thanks.
And again, just for clarification for me, and I'm looking at this and I think I understand it. No portion is going to come any closer than the current setback.
Correct.
That's a true statement?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, I'm going to ask my same question, but in a different way. If there's no changes, why is this up for discussion since it's already there? And
If I could add, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please go ahead.
If I could add some clarity to that, this does pertain to the proposed addition to the building, not to.
We've lost you. Keep your finger on the button.
I'm trying. I'm sorry. I got to get this thing fixed. It drives me crazy.
I know how you can fix it real quick. Put it under your rear tire when you leave.
Believe me, I would like to do that.
Duct tape.
In any event, this does pertain to the addition or the proposed addition to the building. The current building is non-conforming, will remain non-conforming in terms of the setback, but this is purely for the addition. The considerations of the board here in granting this area variance are set out on page 6 of the conclusions of fact and decision. Those are the 7 Duncan versus Middlefield criteria that are looked at for an area variance. Again,
Hold that hold the finger down.
Again, the standard is practical difficulties, and these 7 items are the items to be considered in an area variance, and we're only looking at the addition right now, and it's just limited to the discussion on this is limited to the addition. It's not, it's only to the setback. It's not to the rest of the addition or the rest of the plans. It's just purely this setback issue, which they're asking for a variance from.
Right.
The rest of the plans would be considered at a future date when they file for a zoning permit.
What?
Okay, I want to make sure
Whoa.
this is only to give them the unconditional use that they can go less than the 60 feet for the new addition, and they have not filed for any building plans that we have seen in our packet.
That's not correct.
They've filed some drawings that show the addition. Jeff may be better able to answer that question.
It's shown right now.
Right, but I think what Mr. Betts was saying was that our issue is the variance, is the setback variance. Am I hearing that right?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. So our issue is not the building permits, the zoning piece with regards to the building permits. Our issue is only the setback piece.
That's correct. That's the only variance they've asked for.
Right, right. So that's what this request is for.
Correct. It's a limited issue that's in front of the board.
Right.
Jeff, is that correct? Jeff?
I think we've lost him.
Nope, I'm on here. But it's
okay.
Button down below. Yeah, the request is just the setback for the variance request. The parking, lighting, all that would be under review when you do your commercial permit for the addition, when you submit the zoning permit. So that would just have to meet our general code and development standards for that.
So just to clarify, so that would not require an additional appearance before this board?
That is correct, as long as you meet our standards.
Okay.
And that way, this is just a variance. Other than that, if you meet the code, then it would go through, and that's part of the fire department review. They'll review and let us know during part of that process.
Thank you.
This is K. Onkwe, the architect firm. We have already received a conditional permit from the fire department. It is conditioned upon the zoning approving.
And Mr. Betts, we're to be looking at the 7 reasons here, or 7 conditions, I guess they are.
Yeah, there are 7 requirements there from the case of Duncan versus Middlefield. Those are the criteria to be considered. And as I say, the standard is practical difficulties. It's a lesser standard than a use variance. So yes, those are the criteria to be looking at. And again, as Jeff said, you know, going through the permitting process, assuming the rest of the development meets the permits, there would be no need to come back before this board. If there's anything else that they need a variance from as they go through it, they would have to apply for that and come back before this board. But right now, the only thing in front of the board is the variance on the setback.
Isn't that interesting?
Okay. But in order to grant or deny that variance, we have to apply those 7 principles or conditions.
Correct.
Okay.
I once again, I don't mean to sound redundant, but they're already using that setback.
Well,
yeah, on the old, but they're using it on the old. So now what we have to look at is for the new portion that they want to add.
And one of them is the variance substantial? Well, it is substantial.
It is substantial.
Okay. And
but be there.
Well, no.
For the old part.
The new part is not there.
But as Mitch Ritchie said, they're not going to be using this 4th Street. They're going to be using 3rd. So to me, that sounds like 3rd Street is going to be their new main entrance.
Well, it has nothing.
It will, but we can't ignore the other.
We need
May I
to
ask
know.
a point of clarification? Someone who knows the distances on the drawing we're looking at right now, 4th Street ends at the 4th Street ends at a place only a little bit into the addition. That is correct, right? I'm reading that correctly?
Yes. It's a little line there.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the way I understood that also.
So I wonder if that is really substantial when are we talking about 10 feet there?
No, it's substantial is clear along the new addition. If 4th Street ends somewhere along that, any part of it is substantially closer to 4th Street than it should be, given that 60 feet.
Yeah, my only point is I believe that there's only like maybe 10 or 15 feet of the addition before the 4th Street right-of-way runs out.
Well, and that's why I asked the question about if the road was abandoned.
Right.
And as long as that road exists, any part of the building can't be closer than 60 feet to that road, wherever that road is.
Okay.
Am I correct on that?
Well, this is exactly why we're seeking the variance, yes, but we would be very open to a conversation with the township as well as our neighbors about potentially abandoning 4th Street.
Well, and what's the probability of you moving 36 feet, the building offsetting it so it is 60 feet from the right of way?
The difficulty for that is it destroys the flexibility we were speaking about previously. By continuing the line, we put the sanctuary and the fellowship hall in alignment with each other.
No, totally understand. But
Okay.
you see what we're looking at is, oh, you're not seeing. The 7 things, and one of them is the variance substantial. And so we've got 60 feet. Now we're down to 14. That is substantial. We can still say it's substantial, but we're approving it, or we can say it's substantial and we're not approving it.
And actually, I think it may be less than 14 by the time you got down to
Yeah,
the
you're right
new,
in the road.
the new addition. I mean, because the road like hooks right in
Uh-huh.
to the
No.
addition.
You're, yeah, down.
No,
there
that's
you
our
go.
gravel, that's our gravel driveway. The road actually ends as it crosses our property line. It's actually, the road goes outside of its boundary.
The
That's
road
right.
ends at the old back of the old existing, or
There's a little dash line
No,
on
it's a
the
very
chart.
short, it's a very short, yeah. Yeah, the gravel driveway there was added by the church. That is not 4th Street. 4th Street.
Right. But as you can, well, on one of our zoomed in site plans, 4th Street seems to hook a little bit
It
to the
does.
west.
It hooks and comes across into our property.
And it comes, and it comes into that building, and it looks to me like it would.
No.
It
It stops before that.
It stops.
Yes.
This is Bob Keith. The site plan that was shown before shows what actually is happening there, but the roadway, the pavement leaves the right of way and continues on into our property currently. And if you look at the site plan drawing that shows the parking lot slots and all that, you'll be able to see exactly the pavement and how it leaves the right of way.
okay.
Just for a point of clarification here, under your section 21.09, which is the setback regulations, where it talks about the road in there, it says roads are measured from the right-of-way line. So not necessarily the pavement, it's measured from the right-of-way line.
Right.
And that's still there, regardless whether the pavement ended or not.
That is correct. The road doesn't have to be improved for there to be a right-of-way.
But the right of way does end.
Not before your new building starts, right?
Right. Could we get, is it possible we could get the plan back
The
up?
site
that shows
plan
it?
back up.
Yeah, the site plan.
I think Jeff may be working on that.
Oh.
Is that the one you want?
Exhibit 2?
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yep.
good. All right. And you see that little, as pointed out, the road does hook a little bit, and then it stops where that line is. That's gravel we put in, which we're going to take out and put trees and grass in. But the road up right away is right there where that little line goes across before it comes on into the building.
It's not the dash line, it's the line above that.
This one.
Is this line?
The line almost parallel with the
Where the
cursor.
property juts out on the right is where
Right.
the right away.
Oh, okay. But you see, my statement is that there's some pretty good front footage of the proposed building that is not 60 feet from that right-of-way line.
That's correct.
Okay. I was trying to. Sorry.
Okay, I don't know who's drawing this.
That's me.
The little blue line. What's the little blue line now?
That's the property line.
Which is also the end of the road.
The end of the road.
The end of the right of way, yeah.
Okay.
And just for the board's sake, and looking at these criteria, I know you're looking at number 2, whether the variance is substantial. You want to look at all of these criteria in their totality, not just get stuck on one. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I wanted to start with substantial.
That's fine.
But yeah, I was going to go down. If this is a commercial property, then number 1, whether the property will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use without the property without the variance.
I would say that would be yes, but
I would also.
yes.
There could
I
be
mean,
other things you could do.
Sure.
Number 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment of results of the variance.
variance. And that,
I mean, in the 9 pages from the neighbors, I got the impression they thought it would be detrimental.
I didn't see anything from the neighbors speaking to the setback.
No, I believe it was to the building itself, which you're correct. Just a point of clarification, you said the neighbors
there
across
was something in there.
was parking on 4th Street. Was that the only use besides you guys driving out?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the neighbors actually have a driveway off of Franklin.
Okay. Let's see. Number 4 is whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, i.e. water, sewage, and garbage. I'm assuming, okay, fire
I'm
has given a
assuming no.
conditional, but I would assume no. Yes.
I'm thinking that it's not going to be upgraded anytime soon, and that it is able to continue on with as all that is designed in there.
Yeah, with the existing leach bed and the existence or the new pumping holding station that they talked about. 5, whether the applicants purchase the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions. I'm going to assume
They should
you knew.
have. Well, they should have. It's
Should have,
public
yes.
record.
I know when you were here before, we advised you to get some more land so you would at least have the 5 acres. So I know you knew about the restrictions at that point.
As I
Pardon?
recall, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
As I recall that discussion, the lawyer representing the zoning board said that you should consider, if you're going to let us go get the property, additional property, then you should also consider to vote no if you're having trouble with the setback, and there was no votes, as I remember it.
Yeah.
But this is Bob Keith, but the setback at the June 2019 hearing was not the roadway setback, it was the property line setback, which is a different part of the code. There was no mention at that hearing about roadway setback.
Oh, I thought it was.
I think
I'd have to look at it.
The 5 acres for the conditional use.
Correct.
Variance that we were asking for at the time was to deal with the property line setback, which is separate from the right-of-way setback.
Okay. I was there, but I don't remember it, so.
I think it was mentioned, but I think everybody was looking at it just being an extension to the existing building and running along the same line.
Mm-hmm.
And being non-conforming like most everything is in that area.
Yeah. Number 6, whether the applicant's predicament feasibly can be
obviated.
Obviated. Thank you. That's what I thought it was, through some method or other than the variance.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, not unless they move the building. And 7, which is not on that one, but I've got it up, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirements would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance. So that's what we need to consider.
And when you're considering them, keep in mind that don't let any single one of them be completely determinative. You need to look at the totality of all of these criteria.
I know I've done a lot of talking, but to me, the substantialness of it is the one that just kept jumping out at me. The rest of them seem like we could mitigate or, you know, agree that something else can be done, or this granting the variance would be okay. But that's just me.
Well, I think the last time that we looked at this, I think we were looking at the lot as it had been used since, I guess, the inception of the small town of Lewis Center. And just the way all those parcels were sectioned out in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in the way that the original building was set and used. And there's nothing else really that's going to go in after this on the other end where the addition is going to go on. Because that's owned.
Oh, that's Delco.
Yeah. And they're not going to do anything with that.
No.
And you know, I know we looked at this for a long time, as far as there's only one house to the east of it, and it is north of the addition. And there's nothing else that's down there that's going to be around the addition. And would that be a good use to expand this building to a size that they want and need, so they can vacate the other one that's across the street?
I agree with what you said, but
and you know, and in the whole scheme of things, they're looking, you know, to move it all to one building, which, you know, if everything stays equal, that doesn't mean there's going to be more people, more cars, more traffic. It's pretty much going to remain the same at this point. And, you know, it wasn't going to be rented out or anything like that to increase, you know, any of those points, as I recall the last time we looked at this. And that's why they looked to Delco for a little bit of extra land to make them compliant with the 5 acres, to, you know, make this church a bigger church. And turn the other house that they bought or property back over to a regular residence to go back into the neighborhood. I mean, we looked at a lot of different factors there, you know, as far as the safety of, you know, having that separated and coming across the street all the time, versus, is it reasonable to put on an addition on this lot that's, you know, all the way to the west? Pretty much right there at the railroad tracks.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt for just a second.
You can.
I know that the applicants have spoken somewhat. I don't know if they have any more to say in support of their application for the variance, but you will also want to give an opportunity to anybody that's on that may be opposed to the variance as well.
Thank you. Well, let us ask now, is there anybody on the Zoom meeting that is opposed that wants to talk?
Yes, I object. David Dill, 1557 Franklin Street. And
Go
yes, I do object. My wife and I, all of our neighbors, we already wrote our objections. We submitted them in a timely manner, and I think if you read them, you should understand that our objections are more than just a list of 7 items. This is I understand that, you have to excuse me, I wasn't ready to speak when you made this announcement.
Well, then shut up.
Who said that? Who said that? Who said that? Hello?
I don't think they're going to come forward.
Well, was it? I would like to know who that was. I mean, there's no reason to shut up. Look, this is not just a matter of, I mean, I understand that the right of way along the side of an old road that nobody drives on isn't necessarily the world's biggest deal. I get that. But if allowing a variance for that allows the church to expand to such a point that they now have that zoning now requires them to have a larger paved parking lot, which then adds to the water problems of the entire village, both sides of the tracks, that is a problem. These things don't just exist in a vacuum as 7 little items that you have to check off the list. The church clearly knew of the restrictions on that lot at the time they bought it. Some of their members were members of the old church and they know why they moved. Everybody knew what the restrictions were on in place. Here's one of the big problems that this presents for us. A church nowadays is simply not what a church used to be. I think you all know, you understand that. What a church was in 1866 is considerably different from what a church is in 2020. Nowadays, a church is also a school, it's a daycare, it's a this, it's a that, it's any number of things that have nothing at all to do with the Sunday morning fellowship. And as a Sunday morning fellowship within a residential community in 1866, this wasn't a problem. It wasn't even much of a problem in 2019 on Sunday morning in a little residential neighborhood. However, once you allow for this to become a church in the modern sense of the word, knowing what all that entails, you are now opening up our little neighborhood to a full possibility of an onslaught, because if the NUUC decides next year, you know what, we think we'd like to move to where most of our congregants are, we're going to put this property up for sale. It is sold with proper zoning for a megachurch to come in and do whatever they want to do, is it not? So we have to take a stand now to see to it that these 7 little items that are so very simple to cross off a list as 7 items, they are a collective whole. They are very much a collective whole, and they stand in the way of something coming into our community that is noticeably different from what it's always been. So if zoning doesn't stand for that, if zoning doesn't understand that the actual role of zoning has to be the protection of the neighborhoods as they exist, then I don't know what they do. What we're asking simply is for the government entity that looks into this sort of thing to look at this and be reasonable. I mean, I assume that all of you came out here and walked the place, right?
No.
No?
We're not allowed to do that.
But you're not allowed. It's a public street, sir.
Well,
believe it or not, anybody's allowed to come to Lewis Center.
I've been there before.
You can come here, you can walk it, you can walk the path, you can walk the streets, you can see how it's used, you can see how we come and go. Look, I understand that we don't do like most folks in Orange Township do. We're kind of like the Amish living out among the English. We're different here. We moved here specifically because we like it this way. We love living in the twilight zone. It's what we want. We shopped for places just because of this. The folks that move here, they love it here because it is this way. We want to be different. We don't want curbs and sidewalks. We don't want bike paths. We don't want fire hydrants. We don't want any of that. We just want to be left alone. And this application simply does not fulfill any part of leaving Lewis Center alone. If this were, in fact, a community group that grew out of the community, that was, populated by the community might embrace this and make exception and say, well, we are a part of it, and they do listen to us when we bring up points, and maybe this will be okay. But that isn't the case. The folks that go to church here don't live here, a very, very, very small minority. So they're, they come and then they go. They come in and then they go. And when, they all know how we are here, I think. I mean, they usually slow down for us if we're out walking and that sort of thing. And they've been pretty good about not driving all over our yard. Susan has really done a good job through the years of confronting people when they did that and asking them not to do that. That's terrific. But the frontage on Franklin Street is just as much an issue as on 4th. Franklin Street, I heard someone mention that there is no immediate plan for change here, but I know there is plan for change. I know there, everybody kind of wants to clean up Little Lewis Center. And when that occurs, this is going to make a pretty good sized street right between us and this church. And if the church is already there and there's no room to use the entire right of way going south, I have no doubt that it will move north into my yard. This all has big consequences beyond just 7 points in a list. So I'm simply asking you to put yourself in our shoes. There is no law that you can quote that says this is good. It's just simply the law of right and wrong and the law of treating people the way you'd want to be treated. Come out to our little place, look around, walk around, see if you really think that this is appropriate, because that's what zoning does in our eyes. Now, if that's not the case, if that's not what zoning does, okay. But I think that's what we count on you for. That's why we support a zoning department, is because we feel that we need a voice in government to stand in where there is really no law, to make a judgment and say, okay or no okay. And in this case, I think we really have the facts on our side that it is not okay. Also, just as a point, on the east side of the church and the addition, there are 2 residences, and one of them is very much affected. Further, everything in Lewis Center will be affected. We have a water problem here, and I know the zoning people probably aren't aware of it, but the engineers are, and maintenance is, and everybody has been for 35 years, probably 135 years. We have a real water problem. Anything that changes in the village affects our drainage. We get a wet basement, people's yards flood. The Lewis Center ditch, which is supposed to carry all this out of here, the tiles have been cut numerous times. The county doesn't want the responsibility. The township doesn't want the responsibility, and it's never any of it been fixed. The railroad usually is the one that ends up holding the bag, and they try to do something to make water flow under the railroad to get it out of here. But a parking lot here, a paved parking lot, is an absolute non-starter. We can't do that.
I just make a point of fact, we are submitting a plan with a gravel parking lot.
Well, that's just fine, but you're also putting in a leach bed that is big enough that if it floods, and it will. I mean, that's just what happens. Your whole back half there is all just swampy. You can't walk back in that. It's
so what I understand is that we are required to show a drainage plan that shows that we do not adversely affect drainage through the expansion, and that's a part of the ordinary process of business.
Well, we know that, Susan, and Evans Farm had to do that too, but they still ruined our drainage.
Okay, let's try to be civil, please.
Oh, I am.
Oh no,
I'm not being uncivil. I'm not uncivil at all. But we really feel like we have a strong point and we don't feel it's being considered.
This is Keonkwe, the architect, our firm. I would like to make a point of correction. The comment by the former speaker that says the parking lot is asphalt. The parking lot is not asphalt because the zoning code does not require that. So the parking lot is gravel base, which will actually help percolation. And the way the parking lot is going to be designed and the site is going to be designed is going to meet code. And the code requires that any water that is generated on site has to be accounted for before being discharged. So we are not just going to be flooding the street or the neighborhood water that is generated on the site. So the Delaware County Engineer, they have standards just like Ohio EPA, which is what we are going to abide by.
This is Jerry Dill, 1557 Franklin. I affirm. The reason this question is coming up is in the June 2019 meeting that this specific question came up. The plans were presented as asphalt, and you, sir, are the one that told the board that they want asphalt now. And I know these plans that have just been submitted again show gravel, but we need clarification that gravel means gravel because asphalt was specifically brought up.
James Johnson, Lewis Center, Ohio. Yeah, we didn't want asphalt, but we thought that there was a question from the board, and when we acquiesced that we'll do asphalt, but subsequently we can't afford asphalt. It adds another $100,000 to our building cost. But besides, our congregation is very green, and they wanted they prefer the gravel where so the aquifer can be charged from the rainwater rather than running off.
We understand that, and we would expect that. Again, it was, I don't know how to pronounce the gentleman's last name, Mr. K here. He specifically said they want asphalt. That's why we're asking for clarification.
And you have the clarification.
Thank you.
This is David Dill again. I'm really, is that Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm trying to be civil. We're just representing our view. People have a view, and we have a view. Our view is that when we moved here, we knew what was across the street, and we made a decision accordingly. Now, a lot of things have changed around Lewis Center, around Orange Township. But for the folks that live here, not everybody in Orange Township is okay with these changes. Not everybody likes the changes that were made between 23 and the village. Not everybody likes all the development to the north of us. Not everybody likes any of this. I don't like the school growth myself, but we have things that we can't control, and those things have a great bearing. Right now, there's a lot of discussion about closing our railroad crossing here on Franklin Street. This is a big deal to us. This is a change that we have done everything that we can do to try to stop, but we don't know if we can. And if we can't, it is going to turn our streets here, 3rd Street, Franklin Street, 4th Street, into a cul-de-sac. All that, and I know that you may not know this, so I'm going to tell you. When anything occurs on Lewis Center Road, the traffic immediately, they know that this little crossing is over here. So all that traffic pours through over here. We don't really want to see that change, and it's going to have an immense change on how things happen. The church is simply going to add to that. I understand that in this phase of what you're deciding, they are not asking for expansion just yet of any of their programs, but if you, to quote a movie, if you build it, they will come. So if they build this building with the enhanced space, do they expect that more people won't come? Of course, we're going to have more traffic. If we have 200 occupants, if it's 2 to the car, that's 100 cars. If it's 1 to the car, that's 200 cars. I mean, this is simple math. You should be able to look at this and say, we are having a major impact on these half a dozen houses in Lewis Center. And, you know, if that, I understand if you look at this and say, well, this is a, you know, we're building a firehouse and it's going to serve the entire community, and the needs of these 6 or 8 or 10, you know, there are about 20 of us, I guess, households have to take a bow to this greater community need. But we don't feel like in this particular case that the greater community need is being served. We feel the greater community need is to preserve Old Lewis Center as it is for as long as humanly possible. That's what we're asking you to decide.
Mr. Chairman, if I could interrupt for just a moment.
Sure.
Just to kind of circle everybody back here. I know there's been a lot that's been discussed, but really the only thing that's on the table tonight is the area variance that's been requested. So I just kind of wanted to make sure we're getting back and staying on topic.
Yeah, this was a tough one.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
Actually, I'd like to put something in on behalf of the church, just to address a little bit what Mr. Dill said. I can see his concern that this is a change in the community, but I want to kind of come back again and say what's happening here is they're taking a building that's about 4,000 square feet, I believe, and taking it up to about 9,300 square feet for a congregation of about 200. That's the expanded number. On a parcel for a church that's been there for decades, and actually on property that's been used as a church for more than a century. And I think the congregation is doing its best to try and be a good community member and be a good neighbor and use what is actually a pretty small parcel to its best use. And, you know, try not to overly impact the area. The comment about, you know, they might leave and another mega church would come in. You know, if you understand mega churches, we're talking 50,000, 100,000 square feet with thousands of congregants. And this isn't, you know, even a decimal point of that. You know, really what we have to come back to is look as what is the law here, what is allowed by the zoning code, and the fact that that the church is trying its best to serve its members and be a good member of the community. So I think I hear the concerns, but I think they're a little bit overblown.
I totally agree with you, and I highly recommend you to talk with Mr. Jeff after tonight, and we want you to understand you the church people, like we are here to develop the community and also like recognize the very divine reason this is about the church. So let's respect the law and the members who are involved in the zoning discussion today. And I would recommend you to sit and talk with Mr. Jeff and see all the possibilities to support the church as well. Also, it is our responsibility to take care of the community also in a right way. And that's what we all are trying to do. So I think like that's the best way to do. And I really, you know, I want to put this up here. We really need to respect the people who wants to make a right decision at this point. Whoever made the comment tonight, that is not really good. That is really not good. We all are like trying to support each other and do the right things in the right way.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to see if anybody else has any other comments, either in favor or against the application?
Sure, I will ask for anybody to speak up for or against. And to clarify, Chris, the conditional use doesn't roll to a new owner, does it?
To a church, to it being a church?
Yes. If it's sold and somebody comes in and wants to keep it a church, will that conditional use follow?
I believe your zoning code addresses that, and I can't say what it says off the top of my head. I apologize. I'll have to look.
Well,
It does follow, Rick.
it does follow.
Yeah.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
This is Lynn Savage. I'm on the board and the building committee at NUUC, and I affirm. I just want to remind everyone again, back to what we first talked about, is that the whole purpose of building onto the church is for safety. It's to keep kids from having to walk back and forth across the street. It seems to me that that's more disruptive to the community than building onto our current building. I just want us to circle back again to the safety issue. And we're really not expanding our blueprint that greatly. I don't know what the square footage of Nielsen House is, but we're selling Nielsen House. Nielsen House is going to go back into the community to be used as a community home. And the church is going to be all on one site. So I understand the concerns and the comments, and but I do think that we need to circle back to the safety issue.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is K. Onkwe, the architect firm. To follow up about what the last speaker said about safety, by no longer using the 4th Street as an entrance into the church, now basically consolidates the traffic entrance into the parking lot on 3rd Street. So in that case, the safety issue is further enhanced, that the traffic is not better controlled, funneling into the site from one location instead of the as it is currently being used from 3rd and 4th Street. So the safety issue again is enhanced by no longer using 4th Street.
This is David Dill again. With all due respect, that sounds good as a plan, and that would be a great plan. But in fact, what actually happens is that traffic coming off of Lewis Center Road takes its choice of 3rd Street, 4th Street, or 5th Street, all of which lead to Franklin Street, which leads to the parking lot. And most of that traffic ends up, it's all on Franklin Street at one point or another, even if you completely eliminated 4th Street and 5th Street, you would still have traffic on Franklin Street. So yes, I can understand your point and how that might enhance safety, but in reality, it doesn't work that way.
Mr. Chairman, I need to give a point of clarification. I finally found what I was looking for, which is your conditional use section.
Mm-hmm.
And under that conditional use section, I apologize. It does say in there, unless the conditional use permit specifically provides that the grant shall be permanent and run with the land, the sale or conveyance of the land or structure wherein the same is located or upon which the same is granted shall void the conditional use permit, and the subsequent owner or his agent shall be required to reapply for a continuation or modification of such use to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So I apologize.
So you're saying that if it is sold, then somebody would have to come back and get a conditional use again for what they've got a conditional use for.
That's the way your zoning code reads, yes.
Thank you.
I apologize about that.
That's okay. Oh, I'm glad you're here.
My apology for being in error.
Well, I was thinking that it didn't, and that you would have to come back again, you know, if it's sold, to get that conditional use.
It took me a minute to locate this. I have a ton of papers on my desk, so I apologize.
Well, your papers are working better than your computer.
I know. There's no doubt about that.
Any other comments or anything that anybody would like to say?
I think it's all been said. And I know we've reviewed this in detail. They did clarify that they are doing gravel, which that's what I thought was presented the last time in their outline. Is there anybody that wants to make a motion either way?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that predicated on the criteria provided. I'll make a motion to approve conditional variance, or excuse me, the variance VACU 2019.
Yeah, actually, I think, isn't it just VA 2019 on this one?
Yep, you're right. VA 2019 only. The CU is the conditional use.
Right. We already did that one. And
as a point of clarification, in the motion, the criteria that was being specified were the 7 Duncan versus Middlefield criteria, correct?
Correct. Correct.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion made by Mr. Miller to approve variance application VA-20-19 based on the facts, the criteria provided in Duncan versus Middlefield. Seconded by Mr. Treves. Those voting, Mr. Oster,
yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Treves,
Yes.
Ms. Sandar,
Yes.
motion carries. And I believe there's a resolution that needs to be passed. That Mr. Betts had provided.
Jeff, they went ahead and approved. They went ahead and approved both the conditional use and the variance. We
do we need to read that?
We kind of used it as an outline for the decision. I don't know at this point that there's really any need to approve the resolution. Both of the applications have been voted on and granted.
Okay. I appreciate the help.
No problem.
And with the motion carried, I do just want to reiterate that the zoning permit will have to be applied for the addition. It cannot get closer than the 14 feet to that right-of-way line. That was part of the variance request. Other than that, the lighting and parking lot and those standards must meet the zoning code standards. the lighting standards would be in our general development standards section. So as long as those are met, it would be an administrative review process once that application is filed for the zoning permit for the addition.
This is K. Onkwe, the architect. Jeff, can I ask you, is the zoning permit supposed to be applied for concurrent with the building permit application?
The zoning permit typically is applied for before the building permit. And then we talk with the fire department. I know you've already applied with the fire department. So when we do our review, we speak with the fire department. And then the building permit, that would have to meet all the standards with Delaware County, and that would include soil and water and health district, depending on the sewer.
Thank you.
That was our last case.
That was it.
The next item that's on the agenda will be the minutes from July 16th.
You are all welcome to watch us confirm the minutes, but I would highly say go do something else. So.
You're very kind. Thank you. And thank you for your time tonight.
Thank
We
you very
appreciate
much.
your attention.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Do you need me for anything else?
No, but thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem. Have a good evening.
Can you be here every meeting now?
I'll be here when I'm asked to be here.
Okay, well,
Happy to do it.
tell them you need a new laptop.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm definitely going to get it fixed. Thank you.
We'll chip in.
Good night.
Good night. Have a good night.
Oh, I should have my LSU shirt on.
Well,
you have your brown shirt on.
Yeah, you can have any shirt you want. Just please wear a shirt, you know.
Okay.
Did anybody have any corrections?
Yes. Page 2 of 5, it's on the first fold, line 75. At the end, large trees or bushes along an anchor set. I wasn't sure if anchor was what was said.
It's all that same thing, Kelvin.
Hey, great minds, you know.
Yours, maybe.
I don't know what else would fit in there, but that just jumped out at me.
Well, it appears that it jumped over both y'all.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, unless you guys have something to change that to.
No, I don't know what would go in there. I thought the same thing. I started to say something and I thought, well, I couldn't figure out what was supposed to be. And maybe that's what he said.
That he may have. It didn't seem right.
Y'all just don't understand my Cajun talk.
Well, that may be. Page 4 of 5, line 157, Mr. Miller again. Possibility of, and there's 3 question marks. I assumed everybody got that one. Because I don't know what possibility of cracking of deformities. I don't know what you were going after, Jerry.
I think cracking.
Yeah, that's what
movement, cracking and movement.
Yeah, that's what I would put in there. Page 1 of 7, and this is on VACU 11, 7/16/20. It's lines 43 and 44.
Mr. Miller again?
Yeah. worship at 5:30 probably PM, and at 8 quote marks tall.
What I was referring to is that the letter sizes were 8 inches or 3 7/8 tall.
Yes. Okay, so worship at 5:30 was the message the letters were
Correct.
doing. Okay, so I think that should be 5:30 PM, and something like is displayed in 8-inch letters or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they showed them at different sizes, but
They did.
they actually were supposed to be the same size.
Yeah. Let's see, my next one's
So
fairly
you're going to change
fun.
that to PM.
Yeah. The next one I had was clear of the last page, 5 of 5 on VA 2012.
Okay.
And it is line 243. There is an extra backslash before the period. Let's see. What I think of. They have granted it for 1. Yeah, for 1, I think it just stops there. And that's what I had.
You're a good man.
I don't
think
know
we ought,
about that.
I think we ought to just vote you in as the official proofreader
No.
for the minutes.
No.
I
Yeah.
second it.
Granted. There you go.
That is not my forte. I just
Hey.
seem to find them this time.
I find that difficult because generally, you just scan right over errors and
Yeah, but I've been going from videos to transcripts and making closed captions. So I'm literally looking at each word and hearing it. And if I don't hear what the professor said and see it in the transcript, then I've got a problem and I have to fix that. So.
okay, well, I'll make a motion to amend the minutes as designated.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Oster to approve the minutes from July 16th, 2020 as amended, seconded by Mr. Shipley. Those voting, Mr. Oster,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
You're muted, Aaron.
Mr. Krebs,
Yes.
Ms. Sundar,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley.
Hello.
Muted.
He seconded it.
He seconded it.
Then I think we lost him.
Maybe he had to run to the little boy's room.
No, can you hear me now?
There we
Yes.
go. There we go.
I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you
Do you
approve
vote?
the minutes?
What's that?
Well, how's your vote for the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, that is the last thing that we had on the agenda for tonight.
Yeah, it was a good call too, getting through all this stuff, Jeff. I'm glad we did this and didn't stretch it out into 2 nights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the last one was the big tie up, and
We
I
knew that
know those 4 people didn't want to introduce any change, but I'd kind of like to have that from what's going on across the street from my house. But
Are we adjourned yet?
No, we're not.
sorry, we're adjourned.
So you can
But
stop the recording.
Change is always inevitable.